You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Greetings, Angry Insomniacs. This is Eddie Huntley, Fallen Territory.
What the hell are you doing out here, man?
I don't know. I woke up and I found myself out here looking like this.
But someone beat you up. Someone dragged you out there.
I think I sleepwalked.
You sleepwalk.
Apparently.
When was the last time you slept, Eddie?
Been a while.
I don't always remember what I do. I sleepwalk.
He's one restless soul. He can't even keep quiet in his sleep. Sometimes I'll wake up and he's wandered off.
The guy's got problems. Things are happening in his life. Now, you know, it could be a figment of his imagination.
I wanted to ask if there were any audience members listening right now who had any experience with sleepwalking or sleepwalkers.
Was the guy who died, was he a friend of yours?
It was a mugging, okay? You gotta stop beating yourself up trying to figure this out.
Why do I feel guilty for shit? Why does everyone blame me?
Oh, you think I randomly picked you to blame? I saw whatever the hell it is what you were doing.
What the hell's going on, Eddie?
These people, you know, they're kicking against the universe. They're punching up. They're fighting battles against Goliath that they are not going to win. They're not.
Why do you go? What compels you?
It's not a secret. It's just not your fucking business.
A landlady and her daughter, who was pregnant, burned up in a fire that they said he started.
Why didn't you tell me?
I'm sorry, did it upset you?
It does upset me.
Awesome.
I was running with the wolves, and I knew I was cold, but I didn't know how cold, and I knew I was fast, but I wasn't fast enough.
And what are you hoping to find?
Solace.
Hey folks, it's your friend Mike White coming at you with a special episode. On this episode, I am talking with Daniel Kremer. He has been on this show quite a few times, mostly as a co-host, but this time we're talking to him as a director of his new film, Overwhelm the Sky. We're also joined by the lead of Overwhelm the Sky, Alexander Hero, who plays Edgar Huntley. Now let's go ahead and enjoy this interview. Daniel Kremer, last time we spoke, well, gosh, it was a while ago, and we were talking about somebody else's movie, but now we're talking about one of your films, and I'm very curious how Overwhelm the Sky came to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm used to on your show you asking when was the first time you saw so-and-so, and what did you think of it? We really got going on this November 2016. It was kind of in a lull. I was looking to do another film entirely, and that got actually pushed off. It got to the point where my longtime cinematographer Aaron Hollander said, "Well, why don't we just do something?" You know, he's like, "You've been talking about doing the one weekend feature film for a long time, so why don't we kind of begin something?" And I was like, "Well, okay." I mean, and you know, it was a weird time just in general. My mentor had. To whom the film is dedicated had just passed away, and Trump was elected, of course, and a job that I was going to be depending on editing at American Zoetrope had been pushed off, you know, and I wasn't sure when that was going to get going, so I was kind of bugging out a bit on a number of fronts. So I kind of began to look in my log of ideas, kind of to see if we could do anything on a no budget or low budget. And then I saw this kind of line item in my kind of index of ideas. That was just the name of the book, which my brother had told me about years back, because he got his master's in antebellum American literature, and he told me that this novel in particular would make a really great movie. And I read it then, and I was like, well, I don't know how much this novel lends itself to a movie, but there are a couple really cool, quote unquote set pieces in it that would be kind of fun to stage. So then I told Aaron, my cameraman, that, oh yeah, we're going to do Edgar Huntley, or and he's like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I was like, well, why? He's like, no, because I was looking at that book on my shelf thinking that I was going to write my own adaptation of it. So we were cosmically linked, and then we just kind of got going, never dreaming that it would be this huge, 3-hour epic that it turned out to be.
So did you make it in a one weekend?
No. That would have been crazy. That would have been madness, nigh impossible. But no, we shot over on and off, really, Alex, I guess, over the span of, I want to say 2 years, on and off, yeah. Alex is nodding here, but yeah, we're trying to think. It was like on and off, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Weekends for about 2 years.
Yeah, weekends for 2 years, and then kind of whichever day that we could snag in the meantime. And then the last part of it was all the desert stuff. I'd been putting that off for a while because I had to find the right location for that on the cheap. And I actually wrote it and aimed the entire movie towards it. Kind of thinking that I'm in California. We have desert all around us in California, not knowing that really the nearest desert to San Francisco was probably about 7-hour drive or so. But yeah, that was the last thing that we shot.
So Alexander Hero, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get into the acting business?
When I was about 17 years old, I decided I wanted to be an actor. And unfortunately, it took me about another 17 years to give myself permission to really give myself over to the craft and to go after it. I had gotten through some health struggles, and just sort of about 2006 is when I really started to go gangbusters for, I was doing mostly stage work at that time and cut my teeth on a lot of community theater and then some professional theater. And then in about 2010, I really started to focus on camera and realized that's really what I want to do. So I've been on this path, this journey now for more than 10 years. And the thing that kind of keeps me waking up every day to go to my day job and want to get excited about what I can do on the weekends creatively. It's my lifeblood. I'm not attached to anyone, and no kids or anything like that. And so this is kind of my baby. And this film in particular goes down in history as one of the most memorable, delightful experiences that I've ever had working on set. The way that it's unfolded is just miraculous, and I'm just over the moon about it, and I'm very, very excited for our screenings.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with love and nurturing about the whole prospect and the people involved and how it evolved, like Dan just said, sort of on a whim, but then it cosmically was linked between the two of them. And yeah, so that's kind of my snapshot story of my acting. And I live in the Bay Area, but I'm hoping to get representation in other markets and, keep pushing the dream as far as I can go.
But it's a very robust but very tight-knit kind of film, theater, creative loop here in the Bay Area. I moved out here about 5 years ago because of my connection to Rob Nielsen, who's kind of I guess you'd say an American indie film legend, and I began working with him and a lot of his people out here, and we had made prior to this I had made 2 other features with actors also from that network of people, and one of my actors on those previous 2 films, whose name is Penny Werner. Who's a really, really great person and a amazing actress, kept on telling me and my entire we kind of have a filmmaking collective called Bricolage Films, but Penny was telling all of us, and me in particular, to like, oh, you really need to talk to Alex Hero. Alex Hero is really, he wants to work and he's great, and you'll have a great time working with him. And then so while we were, and I met Alex, and Alex was, seemed like he was game for anything I wanted to do. Ultimately, when we were trying to put together this kind of ragtag film that just kind of exploded into this bigger project, I kind of turned to Alex and I was like, hey, do you want to work with me on this? And you could be the title character of the book. You could be Edgar Huntley. And and he's like, yeah, man, right on. And he just basically showed up on the first day. No one really knew much what they were doing per se. It was just kind of finding how we were going to do this. Trying to find our path for how we were going to carve this out. And then ultimately, I mean, it really became a way of life for 2 years. It's just, it became a question of like, what are we shooting this weekend now?
Right.
What part of this crazy story are we going to do this weekend? And then I'd try to explain, like, we're going to do the following stuff this weekend, but next weekend we're going to have so and so on, and we're going to, and it was like really just hanging on the wavelength of like, what's next, and how are we going to finally finish this thing. That's kind of how I met Alex, and that's how the thing kind of went.
You said how you were familiar with Charles Brockton Brown, and I'm curious, Alex, how you found out about him, because I have to admit, I am not familiar with this author at all.
Well, I was not familiar with his author at all, but I purchased the book as soon as I became interested in the film, because I wanted to read it for myself, and it's quite a intense read. It's the time period that it was written, it is very dense. I actually also, accompanying my reading of the book, I read some literary criticism of it just to kind of orient myself and get a little better acquainted with some of the themes in it. And so I enjoyed the process, but it was really my attachment to Dan and his faith in his movie making skills that kind of kept me going. The book itself is almost unshootable in some regards, but
enigmatic, I would say. Really, really highly enigmatic is the word I would use, but sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah. No, and one thing that I took away from the book, however, was that I really identified with the way that Edgar Huntley felt towards other characters and how his mindset. That kind of resonated with me, and I had recently lost my father to cancer in 2016, so I was kind of in almost not a similar head state, but I had some ripple effect of things going on in my life, and I felt sufficiently prepared to try to take on the task of mounting this movie and giving a voice to this character and doing it the best that I could. And I'm also need to say that I'm one of those people that loves being on set. So anytime we could shoot on the weekends, that for me was just heaven. That was a break from my humdrum day job and that kind of thing. So I was always ready to go.
Yeah, and it's I guess key to mention in that context that Alex's character in the movie is kind of mourning the death of another character in his own way. So I guess you were basically able to use the death of your father as kind of an emotional launching pad from that, right? Yeah.
Daniel, how did you approach the adaptation of this work?
I'm turning to Alex now, because you and Aaron didn't know what the hell I was doing for a number of months while, like we were shooting kind of things that were, if not ancillary to the book, had nothing to do with the original text. The whole scene with the woman dancing was just like, I just kind of wanted to do, a scene where, this predatory, kind of Black Widow woman character who is, who kind of is, just coming on way too strong, and then, having a whole sequence around that. And then of course, Alex and Aaron, who were the key, my key collaborators. When I was doing this, I think you guys are like, I'm not quite sure what this has to do with the book. I think Alex, you kept the faith, but I was like, no, I know what we're doing. Trust me. He's going to leave this apartment, and then the movie's going to kick into high gear, and then we're going to do the the whole center set piece. But I mean, he's going to leave her apartment, and then he's going to be back in the park, and then the shit's going to hit the fan in a big way. So it was just kind of, and then I think after a while, the broad design of it to you and Aaron, to Alex and Aaron, were very became kind of apparent more and more as time went on. But I was just kind of following my kind of id state in a way, because I was just like, I'm just want to, because I guess partly flared by the fact that my two previous films, if they had gotten any good reaction or reviews at all, it was really I kind of felt that they didn't rise to the occasion of finding the right audience and the kind of finding that their Zen states. So by the time that this movie comes along, I was like, the hell with it, black and white. Okay, we're going to do black and white. We're going to do all these weird ass scenes. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Oh, it's like 3 hours long. Okay, now I guess it's going to have to be 3 hours long. And to hell with it. I don't care. I'm making this one for me after the previous two. And then this is the one that's done better than the previous two, and probably the best that any of my films have done. So this kind of goes to show you that the kind of passionate directorial id state can actually spur a lot of I guess the best reaction from people if you mean it enough.
I'm curious, did you shoot this on film?
I'm glad you asked, actually, because I was hoping that you might have thought that, but no, we actually just had 2 DSLRs, but we're actually getting a film. We're striking a 35 millimeter print next month. Okay, so there are a couple bits in the dream sequences where I working in a film lab as an archivist and as a scanner of a wide array of collections. I have a really incredible access to some 8 millimeter and Super 8 and 16 that I was able to somewhat integrate into those other parts of the film that where Eddie's either dreaming or if he has a vision of whatnot. I was able to kind of interweave those in a more interstitial kind of way. But yeah, it's all video though, like 98%.
Alex, how was Daniel to work with as a director?
I really enjoyed the experience. And again, I'm somebody that thrives being on set. It was an adventure. I never really wasn't quite sure what we were going to shoot on the weekends, but I looked forward to it as an adventure with the three of us, sometimes traipsing around the streets of San Francisco, sometimes in the wee hours of the morning, and getting some of these beautiful, amazing cinematographic shots. And then we had an amazing cast of characters and ensemble actors to work with from this collective that Dan referenced earlier. I feel like they really rose to the occasion and make this film what it is. But Dan is very patient. He's very giving. He has a very firm idea of what he wants, but he lets you arrive at that place in a more natural way than maybe some other directors would, where it's a little bit more pressure oriented and top down kind of thing. And I felt comfortable. I felt satisfied. I felt happy and grounded and eager to do whatever that Dan wanted to try. It was just overall a delightful experience, probably my favorite filmmaking experience that I've had thus far in my career. And Aaron and the simpatico between the two of them is a thing to behold, because they can almost complete each other's sentences, and you really feel like you're working with a group that is on par and even keeled and really steering the ship with all eyes forward and knowing what they're doing. And you feel very comfortable in this collective, in this group of this filmmaking endeavor.
I guess it's really a Welcome to San Francisco kind of movie, because we have a lot of, I guess, oddball characters and oddball actors in a big way in the film. And the adventure, like we were shooting in the Tenderloin, which is a not entirely 100% safe part of town. Like and like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I think we were like a little 3-person band doing a lot of those night shots where you're just walking around. And, so there was a bit of craziness and a bit of, healthy and both healthy and unhealthy insanity, I guess. And I guess the third aspect of that is that Aaron and I have been working together for 12 years. We've done. I mean, I've made 7 features. He's shot 5 or 6 of them. So we have a shorthand. We actually moved out here together from the East Coast. We shared our U-Haul, kind of just to be part of this community and the network out here. Yeah, it's really spurred some. And probably my best work out here has been made here.
Danny, who do you think some of your biggest influences were making this one?
Alex is kind of smiling because on set we would often reference. There was a thing that Sidney Furie says on set all the time, which we were constantly referencing. He always says, "I like it. It's arty." So we were often referencing. So there was often some sense of occasionally using kind of Ipcris file-ish kind of shots to kind of communicate the idea of Eddie entrapped in the various spaces, and kind of entrapping him up until the point where he arrives in the desert and it's wide open, and that's also kind of a trap for him in a way, and then ultimately liberating. So playing with space in a way that was a definite nod to how influenced I've been by his films. But I mean, also in terms of I'm a big fan of Jacques Rivette as well, and a lot of his, particularly a film that he made called Secret Defense, which very few people have seen with Sandrine Bonnaire. Where the film is, it's a very slow burn, kind of like a thriller. That's also about, most of his movies are about 3 hours in length, but also long. But it's kind of really, it's a character piece. I mean, I guess the thing I really liked about that particular film was that the first hour was just getting into Sandrine Bonnaire's head. And then part 2 is just basically, her getting kind of inaugurated into the mystery that's engulfing her, her life and her family, and this kind of journey up to her family's estate and what happens there. Then so it kind of unfolds in a very unusual way for a more genre oriented piece. But I liked. I'm very much influenced by Jacques Rivette. I guess individual films, I think Eyes Wide Shut, I realized I saw on a print at the Castro Theater like a year or 2 ago in the midst of doing this film, and then looking at the cut footage and realizing, oh my God, I didn't even know how subconsciously this was playing into what I'm doing on this movie. And what did someone call, I forget who said it was, this movie's like Blow Up Meets After Hours. Yeah, I think that was a friend of ours called it that. But I mean, I think in terms of this After Hours, I mean, the various barrage of nutcases that Dunn meets in his night out. I mean, and I think particularly in the scene with the dancing woman with Tiziana Pernati, there was very much a kind of After Hours-y type of thing going on. But I guess individual films, but particularly, I mean, just in terms of the use of staging and space. I mean, Sidney Furie has always been a major influence on how I choose to look at a scene, and how I actually on the ground working on set tend to have things go down. Actors will kind of walk into the set and they'll kind of land in a certain place and of their own making, it's their subconscious of their own brain kind of telling them where they feel comfortable, where they should wind up, and then you kind of rig it, or you kind of maneuver it so that using the camera to kind of in this case entrap the Eddie character. But I kind of a lot of tricks up my sleeve just from watching a lot of films that I've admired and all throughout the course of the making of this film.
Well, I'm sure having limited time and limited budget probably also helps shape how things proceed when you're shooting.
I think I'm pretty close with Henry Jaglom, and in his edit room he has a quote by Orson Welles kind of plastered onto his bulletin board, and it says the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. So, when you have a problem on a larger budgeted film, what happens is you basically have the privilege of throwing money at it if you have it. If you can't do that, then you have to solve issues in a much more creative way, and you kind of are more inclined to bring on the combined experience of everyone who's coming from their own place as a filmmaker or actor. And it's kind of like, okay, between all of us, we have maybe about 100 years of filmmaking experience. Let's put our thinking caps on and try to come up with the most interesting way of doing this. I'm always trying to make sure that a scene doesn't feel perfunctory. It doesn't. You can't kind of put your finger on it. It's just it's not easy to nail down immediately. So keeping people on edge, and then if you can bring your collaborators into the process of playing that, I don't want to call it a game, but it is kind of a game in a way. If you can kind of bring them into that gambit, I think you wind up with the best process. And I'm not sure how much you can do that on moneyed films. I think there's always beam counters. There's always time. There's always pressure. Are we really milking all this for all it's worth? So I think that it's actually quite freeing to do it, this way, as opposed to having to worry about, our person looking at the watch and they're like, well, we should do this now. It's time. I guess we were able to do our due diligence more.
Alex, what were some of the biggest challenges for you on this shoot?
I really wanted to give an impression of Eddie as being a dynamic person. And so I felt like over the course of his journey in this movie, he embodies a lot of different types of characters, and sometimes he's a little bit irascible. Other times he's a little bit more strung out and nervous and uptight about things. And my biggest challenge was trying to assemble some diversity in my performances, but then also have a cohesiveness that bled through the entire filmmaking process. And so I wanted to make sure that the Eddie you saw at the beginning of the movie was still somebody you could identify at the end of the movie. And a lot of that was just putting my faith in what Dan had prescribed for us for what we were going to shoot in the upcoming days, to give myself over to that and also to try things, to experiment, because we did have the luxury some days of having some time, and so if we didn't get the right shot, we could give it another go, and just the patience to really dig sink my teeth into the character and give something that I thought was authentic and honest, ultimately, hopefully engaging to the audience.
Relating to that last question, that was also kind of a process of discovery, because I use a lot of improv, and in the first hour of the edit, what I love is when people tell me that they felt that Eddie was his friend's murderer in the first hour, because you're trying to put you're trying to clear. I think the audience is trying to figure him out for the first hour. And there are all these kind of intimations, and visual and otherwise, that Eddie might be a little off in the first hour. So that type of thing, in editing, the way that I work in terms of improv, moments just kind of present themselves a bit, to you in a way that can't be written, and obviously with a lot of improv based filmmaking, it can be very indulgent, and it can just kind of run on, and it can be very self-indulgent and hard to watch. I think we've all seen that occur in various films of the more mumblecore variety or whatnot. But I guess kind of trying. I mean, the challenge was always trying to extract the essence of the scene. Asking yourself, what's the purpose? Am I going to be stringing the audience on to want to see the next scene? Am I intriguing them enough? And trying to find the proper rhythm as well is always a tricky thing. And when I'm editing, I'm constantly sending off rough cuts to people and asking them very, very specific questions about what do you think of this? Does this work? if I were to cut it off here, would you still kind of understand that X, Y, Z thing? It's a long kind of workshop process that mostly involves me and my kind of home environment with my cats next to me, trying to figure out how the rhythm of the film will unspool and whether or not people will want to keep watching. And for a movie that totals 3 hours in length, and when people hear it's a 3-hour improv based movie, that I can foresee them why they would want to run to the hills and never come out. But there was always a sense that I was very exacting and very. I hope I have a feeling I was. If I read the reviews, I'm led to believe that I guess that aspect of it works. But you're always kind of teetering on the. It's funny. I was at a party the other night with a lot of members of our group. We were talking about it's kind of an alchemy in trying to find the right balance to a shot. How much of a shot to leave up before you cut away. And you never quite know how these things are working subconsciously on an audience and what kind of the sum total gestalt is. And it's a very tricky thing. And for me, it takes a while. I'm in editing often on each movie for a long, long time before I tend to surface with a cut that I'm willing to show more of an audience. I'm very anal in editing. And I tend to be very monomaniacal. I tend to be very monkish or monastic, and I think perhaps that can maybe turn some people in my life off occasionally. But I kind of have to turn everything off to get in the zone.
You made the point, Daniel, though, when you were editing this project that it cut rather well.
It cut very well. Yeah.
Yeah. You felt like it.
It's the best cut. It's the easiest cutting I've done was on this film. Because normally I'm. There's always at least one scene that I'm banging my head up against the wall saying, "Oh, what the hell? What the hell? How to do this? How to do this?" I sound like the character from Goodfellas, Eddie. I'm like constantly trying to. On every film, I was like, "There's always at least one scene where that happens." On this one, I didn't. There was none of that really. It was all kind of like butter in a way, even though I still had to do some exacting things to kind of figure if people would digest whatever scene the way that I wanted them to. And then, of course, you came back for like a couple little insert shots, that bit where you had to say like a line and, it's out of context for you. So I was just like, I had it in my head, but I'm sure you didn't know, why that line and why, but that's kind of the way it goes though.
So how does music play a role in this film after you're done putting it together, or are you using music as you're doing the editing process?
I always use a temp track. So on this one, it was I think I retained a little bit of the glass harp compositions from Man on the Swing, which is a film, of course, probably not known for its music, but a lot of Lalo Schifrin's. And by the way, that was another film that was highly influential on Overwhelm the Sky was Man on the Swing, which you actually did an episode about, I know. With Scott Tafoya. A very good episode, by the way. People listening should check it out. But yeah, I think there was some glass harp stuff that, because I have the soundtrack for Men on the Swing. A little from Black Sunday, not the Bava, but the John Frankenheimer. And I actually went into it with some original compositions because our composer, who teaches at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, had kind of, when I knew that I was bringing him on, because he had composed the music for a film that I edited by Christopher Coppola, who is, if you want to know which Coppola that is, that's Nick Cage's brother. When I met him on that film, and I knew that I was bringing him on to do the music, we kind of talked about, okay, you need to do an overture for the roadshow presentation. And of course, he's like a kid in a candy store because like, oh shit, overture, 3-minute prelude, where people are just in the theater listening to the music without him. So that was like, he was like happy as a lark. But, so, I mean, I did enter into it with a number of themes that he had given me, and then kind of giving him the original temp track to be like, I want something kind of like this. And then I would actually sit down with him and my iPhone and because I have like a little keyboard app on there where you just kind of hit the notes on the keyboard with your finger and kind of demonstrate like, okay, let's try some half-step tritones. And I was kind of showing him like, okay, see how you can do this there and everything, and he kind of so I think we have a very good working chemistry where I come from. I think a bit more of a musical background than a lot of the collaborators he's had in film in the past. So it's like we can kind of sit down, we can play on my little iPhone keyboard, and try to figure out the fundamentals of how a scene is going to be scored. It's always fun, to do. And then of course you hear it for the first time and with a full-on orchestra or ensemble, and it's I think most directors tend to get really excited when they first hear the music performed by musicians who are doing it.
Alex, what's it like for you the first time that you actually get to see the whole movie projected for the first time?
I'm nervous because I'm very critical of my work, and I can see parts where I maybe am playing a very truthful, honest performance, and then other parts maybe where I am not quite as in touch with what the scene demanded. But I felt like on this film there was more of the former, and I felt like
of the latter, you mean?
Of the latter, excuse me. There were more experiences watching myself on camera where I thought, I think I captured that emotion or that moment fairly well, and it was exciting. And I gotta say, in reference to the music and the cinematography, just being the character on screen for a lot of this movie, and then having those other elements surrounding you, it was a surreal experience, but in a profoundly humbling and just beautiful way. You felt like you're part of something that is suddenly is taken on its own life and is much grander and more majestic than I could have ever imagined. A movie that we essentially started in Dan's backyard on a weekend.
Literally in my backyard.
In November of the 2016. So it's to see it come full circle to this very regal almost experience. I'm just still, I can't get over it. I look forward to screening it in New York City coming up this weekend, just because I enjoy new little moments that I maybe had forgotten or rediscover, and it's a beautiful journey. I love it.
I've had to watch this movie a lot of times at this point, and being a 3-hour movie, it's just, every time I do an export, I have to deal with a particular audio glitch that I can fix, but that means I have to do a full QC watch every time I do a new export. So I've seen this movie a lot of times, and but it's always new when you're watching it with other people, with an audience. It always seems fresher, in a large regard. I don't think I'm ever going to watch this alone and for the rest of my life because enough of it. But in terms of just trying to do the tech work and the post work and between all of that, it's just like, oh God. But watching it with an audience though is always it's a revelation. I'm really quite fascinated by where people laugh, where you feel a kind of a bound up tension in the room, but mainly when people laugh, because that's really, really fascinating, because it often changes from audience to audience. I've seen so far, which is really, really fascinating. And that's I don't know, that's one for Freud or whatever. I don't know, like what makes one joke humorous to one audience, so then you could hear a pin drop at another point of it, but then they go ahead and laugh at another part of the movie on purpose, and it's just like, that's interesting. Yeah, audiences are weird. Audiences are very strange, and I like them. I hope they like me, but it's always like, oh wow, you guys reacted to that, audibly, but I didn't hear anything about. Oh, okay, cool.
You mentioned the roadshow version, and I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit more about the different versions of the film?
The roadshow version is just maybe about 5 to 6 minutes longer, mainly because there is an opening overture kind of a musical prelude, which opens up the entire film. And normally at the roadshow engagement, people get printed programs, an 8-page printed souvenir program, which is pretty cool because it has a little history of roadshow engagements and what roadshow means exactly, and why they were so prevalent back in for epic movies back in the 1950s and 60s. And as well as, there's also writings by Alex and Aaron Hollander, the cameraman, and myself, who were the three principal collaborators. There's a little bio of the author of the novel in there. There's some goodies in there. So that's kind of really it's just a lot of fun, I think. That the whole aspect of the roadshow that we've seen so far is just people going. It's like going to a live show, which is what the idea was way back when. Is that it's going to a live show. You kind of get your programs. You're kind of waiting for the curtain to open or whatever, and then the overture comes up, and you just kind of have to let the music in this opening overture kind of wash over you, and then you kind of go into it with a kind of a cloak on, where you kind of know what you kind of put in a mood in a way. It's kind of, and then you're in a you're basically locked into it, I think, because the music, I think, helps to set a state of mind for people. And then the movie gets going, and then intermission comes up and everything. And when we first showed the roadshow version, Aaron and I were actually going to go and hide out because we didn't want people going out to the lobby and see us, and then of course they're kind of thinking that we're going to walk over. It's like, so what do you guys think so far? Good? Is it good? So we was like, okay, we're going to hide out during the intermission. So the time was approaching, and then we got up, and then Aaron's like, okay, come on, let's go. I was like, I just want to see the word intermission on the screen, and then like people begin to rise, because I think I'm going to get a little chill watching that. So I did, and then I like sprinted out, and I got a beer in the bar next to the theater. And then the entr'acte comes up, and then that's a musical prelude to part 2, and just like the whole ceremony of it is really fun to see come off. It's going to be fun to see it happen in New York. It's also going to Pittsburgh, which is my hometown. I was born and raised there, and seeing kind of bringing the roadshow version back to the people in my hometown. I'm in my apartment now with Alex, and I have a pile of programs for the film over there that I'm going to try to pack in my suitcase. Also, the novelty of it is that we're a low budget or no budget movie pretty much, and we're trying to do something highly ambitious that most basically has only ever been done by very mega budgeted kind of films. So that whole aspect is also kind of fun, because I'm packing the friggin' programs in my suitcase, and like and I'm shipping a box of programs back to my parents in Pittsburgh. So it's like, and I'm gonna have to text my mom, bring the programs to the theater. But like the ragtag idea, or like the kind of the ragtag version of the roadshow, is also something that gives me a lot of glee, I have to say, in its own way. I like the fact that it's so shambling, yet it's so ambitious.
Tell me a little bit more about those screenings, and if people are interested, where they can find out more about the screenings, because I'm sure that you're going to be showing this in more than just New York and Pittsburgh, or at least I'm hoping that you will.
Yeah, so New York is this coming weekend. It's at the Film Noir Cinema, which is a theater in Brooklyn, fairly new, playing there for 3 nights, and then I go. I'm only there for the first night. I go to Pittsburgh, and that's going to be playing as part of the Three Rivers Film Festival, which it's the 37th annual. I guess I just learned recently that it's the longest running festival in the state of Pennsylvania. I would have thought Philly, but it was actually George Romero's Night Riders premiered at the first fest in Pittsburgh way back in 81 or 82. So that's kind of fun to play there, because George Romero is kind of the main film icon of my hometown. And my dad actually drove a limo when he was first married to my mom, and he drove George Romero, but that's neither here nor there. But he's told me about that a little bit. But we're going to be moving on to Chicago. We're going to be doing it in LA. We're going to be doing it in Baltimore, and looking for venues for future engagements as well. Chicago's upcoming, but I'll know about that quite soon, and hopefully we can show the print of it at these future engagements, the film print, which is going to be really quite amazing to see that this blown up to 35 and done the right way in terms of the roadshow aspect of it, which should be seen on film. But in the process of booking places and booking, which it's really the first time I've done this. I mean, I've leaned on a film festival ecosystem for my films. There was the sense on this one is that because it was 3 hours, because it was black and white, I'm probably going to have to work a lot harder just to get it shown anywhere. The extra amount of hard work that I've done has paid off in a big regard because it's gotten far more press and far more, critics who've had eyes on it, and just far more attention in general. So I guess it was a big lesson to me. I think I've learned more about film circulation on this movie than any of my previous ones combined. I think kind of trial by fire in a way, but I used a lot of favors, a lot of contacts, and it's been doing quite well. And Gerald Peary, who is a real mensch to give me a blurb recently. I liked his confab of influences. It's we had the one friend who said it's After Hours meets Blow Up. Jerry said it's Blow Up meets Underground Man meets David Lynch meets Nathaniel West's Miss Lonely Hearts. So I thought a pretty interesting cocktail. The whole thing about working harder to make sure that it gets seen, and I think as a result, the buzz has been such that it's at this point it's quite easy to come to programmers and exhibitors with everything that we've gotten on it, and they're often more than willing to give the roadshow thing a shot because it's so unusual and it's so I guess ballsy in a way. But I guess I don't know if that's What do you think?
I would totally agree. I feel like it's unique in that regard, and there's not a lot of other people who are aiming for this neo-epic noir micro-budget feature film, which is
et cetera.
Is a five-course meal, as someone said, I think. So
yeah, that's John Cordy.
Alex, are you going to be touring with the film as well?
I am. I'm heading out to New York this weekend, so I look forward to meeting some of the people who are going to come out for the screenings both nights, and then I hope to make the Chicago and the LA and possibly some of the other dates as well. But I enjoy being at the talkbacks. We have a Q&A afterwards, and I sometimes just like to share my experience of what it was like meeting Dan and Aaron and diving headfirst, that is, into this process, and telling people how remarkable it's come from our initial seed of an idea to where it is now.
It is kind of fun to talk about the kismet meant to be nature of the film to audiences, because there's always like, oh wow, how did you know about it, Aaron? So because I think when my brother met my friend Aaron years ago, and my brother to him mentioned the novel, and Aaron knew about it, and he was like, well, how do you know about it? And it was like, oh, I just found it in a bookshop one day. So it just all kind of came together by a lot by chance and a lot by just kismet, as it was meant to be in many regards.
So for people who are looking for more information, should they go to your Confluence Film blog, or should they go to the Facebook fan page?
Well, both is good. There's the Confluence. There's the fan page on Facebook, which is updated the most frequently, and then the website of our filmmaking collective is bricolagefilms.com, BRICOLAGEFILMS.com, and you can find information about Overwhelm there, as well as about other films that our core group are currently working on. We have a lot of features in the works, including we have, I don't know how many we've made collectively, but it's a lot, I think, at this point. There's more info there, and if you just kind of Google the title, there's a lot there as well. A lot of ways to find out about it, and IMDb is kept actually also pretty up to date. So there's also info on there about, in terms of other reading material, what people have written about the film, in terms of both essays and reviews are up there, engagements and all that jazz.
Once again, the name of the film is Overwhelm the Sky. Thank you so much, Daniel and Alex, for taking the time to talk to me tonight. This was fantastic.
Mike, thank you. It's always a pleasure being on the show, and I think actually it was. I was just thinking. I do believe that the night that we recorded the episode on, I think it might have been Chilly Scenes of Winter, we had just gotten done shooting a key scene from this movie that day. So it's kind of funny to watch it come full circle with being back on the show to talk about this film.
Yep, great. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
I start to creep through the shadows of the moonlight. I'll walk my beat. Better close your window tight. I might come in for a fight. Oh yeah. When nighttime comes, I start to creep. I prowl around when you're fast asleep. I walk around on my tippy toes, and I get into places that nobody knows. I'm always around if you want to meet. You can find me on almost every street. You always get me on the telephone. I'll even come to your home if you're ever alone.